Just sit there, bask in the euphoria. Thank you so much, Canadian Film Festival! We're here, our first virtual Q&A. I'm here with my co-programmer, Ashley Rains.
Hi, everyone.
I'm the festival director, and we've got Alex Burton and Aref Mahabadi here from Because One Day. Gentlemen, very welcome to the Canadian Film Fest.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
That was an incredible movie. I don't know who to talk to first, Aref or Alex, because Alex is a star. He's got that velvet foggety voice over there. He's got the swagger, he's got the charm, the charisma.
I think the good move is just every question towards Alex, that'll really raise the stakes of our film.
You're the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
But Aref, you made sure every frame of that was a painting. I mean, it was a beautifully shot doc. That's the most beautiful shot doc I've ever seen. So why did you choose on those looks to tell this story?
Well, I mean, I work with my cinematographer Dan Ward. We've been a long time collaborator, and just I don't know. It's just what I enjoy. I enjoy making little vignettes with Dan. We We want to get the audience's attention as soon as we can. We want to keep them engaged. I mean, Alex Bird made that job very easy, because when I first met Alex, I'm like, hey, what's your story? He told me the story. I said, this is going to be the easiest thing I've ever done in my life, because I just have to show up and, do what me and Dan do all the time. And his incredible story will just carry the story forward.
And how did you find this story? How did you find Alex? How did you guys meet and come together for this?
Well, Alex was in a play that my cousin was in. And and this was like 10 years ago. And I remember he was around like 20 at the time, and he was wearing a suit. He had the same hairstyle, and he was singing jazz. At the time, I was like, oh, this is like some gimmick, whatever. He's going through a phase. And it wasn't until like, I think like 4 or 5 years later, I was on Instagram. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's still doing this. Like, he's still wearing the suits. He still has the slick back hair. He's still singing the jazz. And he's clearly not exploiting it for money, because it's not like he's super famous or, so like this is a true passion for him, So then I messaged him. I said, hey, I want to get together. I want to know why you're doing this. And it wasn't until we sat down and he told me his backstory and everything, I was like, okay, we got something special on our hands. And I think we've been shooting on and off for like 4 years. Just whatever happens, we're there, trying to build the story. We didn't really go into it with a plan. We just kind of knew that like these are kind of the beats we wanted to hit. But
and when you first asked me to shoot about my life as a jazz singer, I was like, I'm not really being a jazz singer right now. I'm singing to backtracks in my parents' closet, and I don't have any gigs. I don't have a band. I'm not really doing anything. So I was like, well, I better get my act together. And as you can see in the documentary, we go from my parents' house to moving downtown and meeting my band and recording the album and sort of discovering who I am through the music and all that kind of stuff. So I can't believe you stuck with me for almost 4 years. My gosh, we have so much footage. Director's cut. It has to be done.
Oh yeah, there's an hour-long version of this somewhere.
Yeah, how much footage did you end up with?
Just a lot. It was. Yeah. I'm very happy with the edit, but there's a lot of juicy stuff that we left on the cutting room floor. Maybe one day we'll release it. Who knows?
Yeah, because one day, right?
Because one day.
Yeah. You never know. Well, and this is okay. Like I said before, I'm a self-proclaimed jazz nut, especially the old style that you sing, Alex, right? And to me, and this harkens back to what Aref just mentioned. He's like, oh, is this some kind of gimmick? But it's not. I mean, that's in you.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's in you, when I know, like, for me, especially growing up, high school, nobody was listening to Louis Armstrong with me. They were just giving me weird looks. Or like,
we would have been buddies.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I was sitting on the steps listening with my little iPod to like Frank Sinatra, and people were like, who's this dude? What's going on?
Yeah, right. So what is it about that style of music that really speaks to you, do you think?
Well, I think it was growing up going to the jazz clubs. I mean, my first concert was when I was 2 years old. I went to the Pilot downtown Toronto to see Rob McConnell and the Boss Brass. And then it kind of took off. I mentioned a little bit in the doc, but I got to see, Diana Krall and Oscar Peterson and
No way.
Brown and all sorts of different people at these smoky jazz bars late at night. And I just got extraordinarily lucky. Not only that I was just there listening to it, but that I took it in and absorbed it. And it became so important later on when I decided to become a singer. It was my musical training without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I just got lucky.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So when don't you have an album coming out really soon, like this summer?
We do, yeah. So this summer, end of August, we're going to be releasing Whiskey Kisses, which is our debut album. All the music in the doc is from this album. And yeah, so it's going to be out end of August, and we already have 2 singles out, and we're kind of grooving that for a little while.
That's amazing. Because, sorry, can I just, because like 3:52 in the morning kills me, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
First 2 lines of that, 3:52 in the morning, and the piano, she wants to go home. I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm into this song.
Somebody at a gig asked me, they're like, why 3:52? Why not 3:53? And I didn't have a smart answer. I just said, because it sounds better. I don't know. I have nothing for it. So.
Sorry, Ashley, I cut you off there. What were you gonna say?
That's okay. I'm used to it. Alex, if our audience wants to buy your album, follow you, how can they do that? How can we follow your career beyond the short?
Yeah, of course. I mean, AlexBird.net is my website right now. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube. I mentioned a couple of singles are up. We've had a really good rapport with that. We got picked up by Jazz's magazine in the States and a couple other publications. So we're just kind of do it. So you can find me pretty easily. I don't think there's any other crooner named Alex Bird, which is, a plus.
Sweet.
Great name.
So
Awesome.
please do. I mean, actually, it wasn't mentioned in the doc. If I have a quick second, my original name, because I was adopted from Romania, I don't tell many people this, was Sergio Papa.
That would have worked just as well. That's a cool name too.
I changed to Alex Bird, so Alex Bird is technically my stage name.
All right. Plot thickens. I love it. Well,
Great.
guys, thank you so much for being part of the festival and opening up our first ever virtual festival. It was an absolute honor to share your movie with everybody coast to coast this year.
Yeah.
And well done. And we really are looking forward to anything else you guys do in the future. So please
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay, and we're gonna come see you live really soon. Next time you're playing in Toronto. Well,
Please.
next time you're allowed to, anyways.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. Well, our tech guy's gonna sign us out. Hang out with us until he says it's all clear. But until then, thank you very much. And to the audience out there, stick around. We're gonna bring out the people from the Cuban out to have a little chat with. So, see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Araf.
Thank you.
And we're back for our Q&A with the fabulous folks behind the Cuban.
Yay.
So, guys, thank you so much for being part of the festival and kicking off 2020 virtual as presented by Super Channel, of course. Absolute honor to have you guys with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You know what, Anna, you better be nice to me because my mom's upstairs crying, okay?
Oh, sorry.
That's a compliment.
It wasn't just me, it's Lou too.
She's Ecuadorian. She cries at everything.
I don't feel so bad now.
Right? Yeah. Ashley, you want to start things off because I have a tendency to ramble.
Yeah. So Anna, we talked about the Cuban at Whistler. Congratulations on the Borsos Award to your entire team and your cinematographer. And the idea for the film came from a very personal place. Can you tell us a bit about how the film came to be and how you got this incredible team?
Yeah, so I was between seasons on Degrassi, and we went from having 44 episode seasons down to 10 on Netflix. So I suddenly found a lot more time, free time, and I was itching to kind of expand my horizons within the industry. And I was going through and still am going through a lot with my great grandmother who has Alzheimer's and dementia. And Taras had a dream about his grandfather, and he regretted not spending more time with him and listening to his stories and his words of wisdom. So when he shared that dream with me, we kind of got together and put together a pathetic pitch for a short film. And I immediately thought of Sergio because we had met at the Canadian Screen Awards, and I knew that his films were, one, incredibly beautifully, put together in terms of the shots. He's a very poetic filmmaker, if you can't tell. And he had a background in music, so he was the go-to person. We pitched it to him, and for some reason he said yes, and from there we pitched it to Alessandra, and she also had a personal connection to it, and that was the beginning of the end.
Wow. So you guys came up with the story, and then Alessandra, you wrote it out. How does that collaboration work?
You know what? I think it was something that kind of happened in stages. I mean, it started from the dream that Taras had, and then Anna had the experience with her grandmother, and they sort of brought this concept to Sergio. And Sergio was totally inspired by it. He had always said to me, actually, that he wanted to make a short film. It was always like, initially the idea was to make it a short film. And he'd always wanted to make a short film about somebody in a nursing home with dementia. But the story, like, it never really came together. It was just something that was floating around for a really long time. So so with that seed of the idea, he thought, oh yeah, I think that'd be a great thing to do. And he kind of added to it. He added some elements to it. And then the three of them brought this, I think it was like a couple of pages. They brought it to me, and I said, what do you think? Do you feel like working on this? And I read it and I started crying, because of course I also have experiences with people with Alzheimer's, and so in my own family, and then I just it started with a short film, and then the short film, quickly we began to realize that we attached Lugasa Jr. when it was still a short film, if you can imagine. Yeah. So
I think Alessandra was crying because she knew it was going to take up 3 years of her life.
4.
Yeah.
But then Sergio, your vision for this was huge. You're crossing time periods and countries, and you've got an incredible Canadian cast and an American cast. How did that all come together for you? You clearly had a huge vision going into this.
And actually, just before you answer that, that's a perfect question, Ashley, just because Shannon from Twitter is asking that same thing, is what is it like shooting it both in Toronto and in Cuba?
Right.
And all the rest of the stuff all the complications that Ashley mentioned.
How much time do we have?
And how much rum?
I mean, to be quite honest, I was at a stage in my life, I was at a sort of a crossroads. My dad had passed away suddenly, really quite young at 71. So I was dealing with that. And the biggest shock for me was that he did so many great things in the labor movement to help other people. And all those stories died with him. So for me, that was the impetus. And then really just my kind of obsessive nature of wanting to give my all to a project. I think Jane can attest to that. It's just like, it's something that just keeps going on and on and on until I think it's right. And, with this movie, I just didn't want to make any compromises. And I think we've all made movies in the past where you don't have a star and you don't, and then you hit that proverbial wall that says, well, we can't distribute this because who's going to see it or whatever. So I said, I went back to my early mantra when I started, which was absolute delusion, and said, let's work with Oscar winners. Let's work with an Oscar nominated actress. Let's work with a Grammy nominated composer. And it's really strange because everybody that I wanted in terms of cast, we ended up getting. So there was no compromise from that point of view.
That's amazing.
And then I met a cinematographer who has a Mexican accent, who's really incredible, and like a soul sister. And we were able to kind of have that shorthand cinematic language where she was able to interpret my vision visually in pictures. And she really pushed me. So she pushed me. My first AD pushed me. It's in the whole cast as an ensemble, and my editor, just like, I mean,
were you nice to your editor, Sergio?
Well, you ask her, she's there.
Yeah, I worked with Sergio before, so I knew what to expect.
That is the most politically correct way of answering that.
Well, I know that the Cuban had to pivot in light of COVID-19, along with a lot of other films. What is next steps for the film? Where can Canadians see it if they haven't been able to see it through the festival? I know that it's going to Super Channel, but where else can Canadians see the film?
Well, we're working on some very exciting things that we cannot announce yet. We're very close to announcing, but the whole idea, I think I can speak for the whole team. I mean, since day one that we were quarantined, we were just racking our brains trying to figure out creative ways to get this movie out to people. And I said this in an interview, it's like being pessimistic is a luxury we don't have right now. And people like Byrne and the CFF team had the same mantra. It's like, we need to figure this out. And rather than sitting around and saying and feeling defeated, so we sort of took our release plan in the US and Canada and just reshaped it to meet this modern world, because what would have worked 3 months ago does not work now. It's pre-COVID, post-COVID. So yeah.
Well, yeah,
things are happening.
It's crazy difficult for everybody, but I mean, thank you, all of you, to your whole team, even the people who aren't here, for making such a beautiful movie, like visually beautiful, the story is beautiful, the music's out of this world beautiful, and premiering it here with us and sticking with us while we figured things out, because it was dicey there for a while for everybody. So thank you for being part of the CFF.
And maybe Anna wants to say something about the music.
Yeah, so very exciting news, but our soundtrack will be available as of tomorrow. So you can be listening to all that great Cuban jazz at home.
That's amazing.
On all the streaming platforms.
Where can we find it, Anna?
On all the platforms.
iTunes, all of them. iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, all of the things.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's good news. All right, cool. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for being with us. It was an absolute treat. We're honored that you did, and we're really looking forward to anything else you guys do in the future. So please think of us, however the world looks like in the next year or two or whatever it is. Yeah. So to everybody else watching, thanks for taking some time out and listening to the Q&A. Canadian Film Fest is going to continue on all weekend, this weekend, next weekend, and the next weekend after that. We've got fabulous Canadian movies. If you like these movies tonight as much as we did, then you're in for a treat for the rest of the CFF. So stick around. And why don't we just wave goodbye to everybody, because that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Canadian Film Fest and Super Channel and A71.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.